call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for February 17th, 2020, starting here at 7 p.m. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, roll call to establish a quorum, please.
Supervisor Jim Nellen.
Here.
Supervisor John Stabenus.
Here.
Supervisor Mark Hain.
Here.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Here.
Chairman Dan Wolfel.
Here. Good, thank you. Next, we'll do a quick meet and greet so that everybody knows who's all here. We'll start with Amy, if you would, please.
Amy Falk, Clerk Treasurer, County Road P.
Mark Hain, Supervisor, 4675 Matthew Road.
Jim Nellen, Supervisor, Lori Lane.
Dan Wolfel, Town Chairman, Bark Road.
Linda Waite, Supervisor, 5075 Bluff Court.
John Stavnes, Supervisor, Whitefish Bay Road.
Jeremy, would you?
Jeremy Asher, Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
Samantha Coyne, Door County Soil and Water.
Tammy Raby, Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
Doug Curse, Whiskey OT.
Jesse Coyne, Sturgeon Bay.
Jeff Lang, 6417 Whitefish Bay Road.
Brenda Lang, Whitefish Bay Road.
Derek Danilo, resident, County P.
Anybody behind you back there?
Derek Denise, Country View Road.
There you
John DeDeal, Whitefish Bay Road.
go. Okay, good. Thank you and welcome. Public participation. Anyone wishing to speak on some non-agenda items?
Jeff Lang.
Yes, Jeff.
Can I speak from right here if I speak
Sure.
up? All right. First of all, I'd just like to thank both the Township Planning Commission and the Town Board for the time taken to research and make your recommendation to the RPC concerning the Quarry Cup. I had the opportunity today to review the over 100 emails that Amy was kind enough to forward regarding the cup filing. Although I did not request the handwritten correspondence, I assume the fact that absolutely no emails were in support of the cup is reflective of that group also. In addition, the county has over 150 letters for denial, with again 0 in support. We therefore would appreciate a board member attending the RPC meeting to convey the unanimous decisions of both the Planning Commission and the board. I have attended meetings at the RPC where a Sevastopol Board member has done just that for less impactful issues. Once again, thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I don't know about who's going to be in attendance, but we talked briefly about it, but no decision's been made at this moment.
Well,
They have our document. We did receive one letter in support.
well, that must have been a handwritten one, not an email.
I can't remember if it came to me personally or what, but I did see
Okay,
one.
well,
It was-
whatever. Thank
it
you.
was kind of at a loss when I received it. Anyway, John?
Complaints about the roads. Roads are terrible. January 21st, made 2 calls, one to John Stabenus, one to Mark Hain, that the roads weren't plowed. January 24th, Door County PD, ice on the hill in Valmy. And it's all over. January 25th, Saturday, the slushy snowstorm we had, called Linda Waite, called Thad Ash. The roads need to be plowed. These aren't driveways. You can drive through 2 inches of snow, slop, whatever you want to call it, in your driveway. But on the 25th, what was interesting is, while I was talking to Linda Waite on the phone, corner of Rip Road and Weber Road, a friend of mine destroyed his truck because the roads. From Thad Ash, directly, it was your call not to plow the roads. I don't think you should have a call on plowing roads. You should leave that up to the guys that are contracted to do their job. This is getting out of hand, way out of hand, and I'm not the only guy. I would love to sit at the county shop and listen to all the complaints about the roads throughout the county. I don't know what's going on, but things need to get straightened out. There's kids in school buses, there's kids on these side roads. Dunn Road is the worst of them. There's a bus that runs down that road every single day. These things need to be taken care of. That, and then it's amazing how the bay side gets plowed when you tell the county not to plow the town roads. It's amazing how those roads are plowed. and nobody else gets plowed but that side. How does that work? Can anybody explain that to me? I don't think so. The next point of, just basically a public service announcement. There is a 03 to 06 Chevrolet crew cab with a captain on going around stealing trailers in the neighborhood. A 2003 to 2006 Chevrolet crew cab, golden color, pewter in color with a captain on it, going around the neighborhood stealing trailers. He was caught on my cameras. He was caught personally by my son, backed up to my trailer. We think we got it traced down to who it is and what's going on, but there has been a quiet report out of the sheriff's department that we're having an issue with these people doing this. I would suggest if you got trailers, you got anything that can be removed from your yard, lock them up. It was just a fluke. My son pulled in at the right time.
Okay.
Thank you for that, John.
A couple things, John, just so you're aware, and more so for the people that are listening. As a policy, the town does not plow roads when we have 2 inches or less snow. So it's a simple decision that we have had in place for a long time. If there are areas, first off, the county goes out and sands and salts those areas that are considered high traffic or a concern, such as Dunn Road. They do selected intersections. Those are taken care of simply because we do have school buses out there. So that's a standard action. If someone is concerned about their road, they are welcome to call any supervisor or the town, and they can then call the county and authorize the county to go out and sand or salt or plow whatever's done. We have had some concerns with respect to different areas. I personally have talked to Thad about them. We've sent people back out as needed. I think the thing, we would like to say that we're in a city, but we're not. We're rural. And in the years that I've been on this town board, we've taken our budget from $40,000 a year for snow plowing to last year $110,000. And you may not be aware of it, but we spent $134,000 last year plowing town roads. Now, we certainly can do more. The only problem is it's also going to cost a lot more. So on average, and anticipating, understanding what our cost structure is, this is, since 2015 through 2019, the average cost per snowstorm for us at the town has been $8,900 in 2015. 2016 was $17,000, 2017 was $16,000, 2018 was $19,000, and in 2019 was $22,427. So there's a point where we want to maintain the roads for safety. We want the school buses to be able to access it. We're not obviously trying to create problems for somebody. And there is no set sequence for one side of the county being plowed over the other. Last week, I received a phone call from Clem Hedin, who lives right near Linda, complaining about the fact that his street wasn't plowed, and also from a gentleman on Bluff Drive who called to say his street wasn't plowed. I shared with them that at 11:30 in the morning, my street on Bark Road on the east side wasn't plowed, and shortly thereafter the plow went through. So they take on the state roads first, the county roads second, and then the town roads. So unless the town people come to me and say they would like us to increase the budget from 135 to 200,000, there's not much more there's not much more that we can do at this level. If someone has a specific concern, like I said, please pick up the phone and call, and we'll get the county out there to resolve the issue. So.
Well, on the 25th, to rebuttal that, there was over 4 inches of wet, heavy snow.
The county goes out anytime there's 2 inches.
To 2 inches.
Right. Anytime there's 2
So why
or
weren't the
more.
roads plowed on the 25th?
I couldn't answer the question because no one called and said anything that there were any issues.
So then how is it that Thad Ash tells me personally, 5 minutes before I'm talking to Linda, that you personally said don't go out and plow them? How is that?
If there is 2 inches or more, they automatically plow. They
And
do
there was
not.
over 4 inches of slop on the roads.
Well, I'm sorry, you may have misunderstood, or Thad may, but if it's 2 inches or more, they automatically plow. I do not stop somebody from plowing. The only time I stop somebody from plowing is if it's marginal, and they call and ask, and I say, if it's warm, if we have slush, I'm not going to send all the plows out and pay $20,000 for something that's going to melt. But beyond that, that's it.
20,000 versus a human life. That's a coin flip.
All right, thanks, John. All right, Anyone else wishing to speak? All right. The agenda, was it properly noticed? We would need a motion to adopt. Amy?
The agenda was properly noticed.
All right. Motion to adopt would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I second that motion.
Motion by John, second by Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Approval of minutes, Board of Supervisors meeting from January 20th, 2020. Motion to adopt would be in order.
I'll move to approve the minutes and place on file the meeting of January 20th.
We have a motion by Linda, second by Mark to approve the minutes from the Supervisors meeting January 20th, 2020. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, our first bit of action here tonight is we have a presentation from Samantha Coyne, who is with the Door County Soil and Water to talk about our invasive species cost share program. Samantha, the board is yours.
Hi, I'm Samantha Coyne. I am from Door County Soil and Water. I am here to talk to you guys about the invasive species cost share program. You guys signed up to participate last year. And from my understanding, either treatments didn't happen or there wasn't enough treatments that occurred that...
You pull the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
That there wasn't enough treatments for you guys to be billed, so you ended up not participating in the cost share program, even though you signed up to be part of it. And so 2020, I'm hoping that you guys are looking to sign up with us again. I sent before this meeting a map of what we have for the 2019 inventory, because it's 2020 right now, and you can't really go out and inventory at the moment. The various frag patches that are identified in Sevastopol, and we are fortunate enough right now in Door County to have several grants that can cover certain frag patches. And so there's only 2 eligible Phragmites patches that we were able to identify from the 2019 inventory. And one of those patches, the Clark Lake Association in the past has been treating. And so again, this is just approaching you guys saying these are the 2 that would be eligible for the cost share program. And if there are more patches identified later on, we can amend and add them. And I would suggest reaching out to the Clark Lake Association, because you may not even need to pay to have a contractor treat the one associated with Clark Lake. But we can help facilitate that conversation, but we can't guarantee that they're going to treat it for you. And I also sent out, because we're hoping the longevity of this cost share program, again, being the nature of me being new and this program going through some shifting, we're a little bit off. Actually, we're not that far off for us on the timeline, but this timeline is meant to be a way of establishing a set pattern for future cost share programs, because we aren't guaranteed every year to have the same grant sources and same funding. And we're hoping that municipalities are looking to help take charge with treating invasives.
So does the property that's on Bechtel Road, the Taylor property, I think it is?
I believe so.
No, Sawyer, right,
Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer. Huck Finn. Was this one that we identified, or was identified, self-identified? How do we?
So we typically have LTEs, limited term employees, that we hire.
Okay.
And they will go and do inventories. Also, the public can inventory as well through an app called the Great Lakes, I think, Education Network, Great Lakes Early Detection Network, sorry, GLEDN. And so they will self-report various invasive species. And so some of these patches are identified also through that. And these can be historic. So let's say a landowner
Reoccurring.
Yeah. Or a landowner doesn't want treatment. It still doesn't stop us from occasionally knocking on their door and saying, hey, did you change your mind yet? So, yeah.
So do you know if this person, for example, is on the list to actually have it treated, or is it up to him to contact you, or?
So
What's the process there?
what typically happens is the clerk, from my understanding, the town clerk will send out like a letter or permission slip requesting to have treatment happen. And so what ends up happening is then usually the municipality will hire a contractor to go out and then treat with permission from the landowner. We can't treat on properties without landowner permission.
Right.
And if a permit's needed, the contractor will pull the permit. And it should be pretty straightforward at that point.
Do you know what we used last time?
Jason Wilkie.
Pardon me?
Jason Wilkie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. I was going back to when Chuck was actively involved in that. Okay. I'm back. All right. So these others
Well, if you
apply
don't-
for the knotweed.
If you don't treat it, it'll keep growing, right? It'll keep spreading?
It'll keep growing and keep spreading, and that's why it's really important every year to treat it. And so this year is really exciting because Door County has so many grants to help municipalities kind of get on top of what's going on with our invasive species. But it's only as good as how much we can treat. So without support from municipalities, it becomes kind of a problem.
There's no way for us as a town to force taxpayers to do it on their own property, correct? Or
Well, it really depends. So you guys have adopted an ordinance.
ordinance for weed control and stuff?
We do
Right.
have an ordinance.
Yeah, we do.
And I don't know exactly what your ordinance says. Certain ordinances they have sometimes teeth built in, so to speak, so they'll have sometimes a fine associated, and I don't know what currently is Sevastopol's ordinance, so I don't know.
We'll be happy to get you a copy.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. But I think depending on what you have in your ordinance, it depends on whether or not you can enforce it. There are methods, so if a landowner is not excited about having chem put on their property, if they're an organic farm, there's a whole bunch of reasons that they may not want to have chem applied. There is mechanical methods. They're more time consuming, they're really intensive, and we can't, as the county, guarantee that we can do the mechanical methods. They're more expensive, but there is an option if a landowner was willing to take that on, that we would be willing to help supply information as well. The county also does work with landowners and would be willing to, again, obviously work with the municipality on treatment and setting up strategies. This cost share program, the first $500 is covered. After that, it's 50% up to an agreed amount that we set up with our LCC, and we're planning on asking for a similar amount as last year.
Okay. Now, did you have a list that was left when Chuck was?
Right, so we haven't done anything, we did not do anything in 2019, we did not do anything in 2018, but I believe a couple years prior to that, so 17, 16, whatever.
We did a bunch.
I want to guess there were like 5 or 6 properties that were identified with Phragmites. And now I'm wondering if you or anyone from your team has gone out to recheck those properties to see if they have been eradicated. I'm guessing probably not, that they've come back, because it takes several years of treatments, correct?
Yes, it usually does. I mean, unless it's like, an early detection, someone caught, the first sprig of.
I think all the people that Chuck identified, because he was pretty active on that,
We have.
were all basically supportive
Yep.
of wanting to get them eradicated, but not knowing if we've done anything with them since.
Well, I'm wondering if we pulled that list from previously and provided it to you, would you go and check to see if there is active Phragmites? And then we could probably work with those same people, since they worked with us before on a cost share. They would probably be willing to do it again. They were all pretty cooperative. Everyone was cooperative.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
Absolutely, and
Okay.
a lot of people understand invasive species aren't, good. And also, as I said, this is based on our 2019. Hopefully, we don't find any more, but we don't know what's going to happen in 2020. We don't know if there's going to be new populations popping up. We also recheck usually a few years back on our old inventories. This is throughout the county. And this year, I plan on it not being different. We're going to go and check a lot of our old stands and make sure, hopefully, that there's no regrowth, and be updating all of our current stands that we have mapped.
Japanese knotweed is like bamboo, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
We have that at
We
the
have
park.
I was just gonna bring that up, yes.
We have a small patch of it at the park right by
And we
our
have some
sign.
on the southeast corner of this property here,
Oh, do we?
by the rock pile.
We should add it to our list and see if we
So-
can get somebody to cost share it with us.
Yeah, there you go.
So the
So
nice-
that's something, if landowners have Japanese knotweed, we can get a hold of you guys as well?
Absolutely, and the nice thing is currently with our active grants, we can treat Japanese knotweed. I'm saying this, it depends on how much we also start getting reporting. From my understanding, we don't have a lot in the county, and it's one of those ones that's really important to get on top of. We have enough grant funding to be able to cover that, so if you guys know of anyone who has Japanese knotweed and is willing to work with us, let us know, and we can gladly cover that. Japanese knotweed can really be detrimental towards foundations of buildings. It can spread really easily, and it's really bad. So that's one that I highly recommend if you can get on top of, and let us know if you guys see it or have an idea of where it is. If you can send me an email, or just even Door County Soil and Water, just a rough area, a map, some information. We will follow up and
Well,
definitely
I
take
knew we
it
had
into
one
retreat.
parcel of it, but I didn't know we had a second, but,
Yeah, there's 2 spots for sure on this property.
Okay, well, you'll definitely hear from us.
I appreciate that.
Can you leave us a couple cards? Do you have a card you can
Yes,
throw
I
at
do.
us or something?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Would it be helpful to get that prior list then to you, or could you check it
Yeah,
out? if
absolutely.
we asked you to? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone on the board? Okay, well, thank you for coming. We will get you a copy of our ordinance as well.
Yeah, I'd appreciate
You
it.
may want to really have some boring reading. Anyway,
That's what I
thank you.
live for. Thank you.
All right. With that, the next item on our agenda is with Jeremy Aschauer, who's with the Wisconsin DOT, and this is with respect to a highway repaving project going through our town. So, Jeremy?
All right, does that work?
There
Good.
you go.
All right. Our purpose for coming up here tonight is really an introduction to a project that we have coming up on Highway 4257. Essentially, starting right at the north end of the roundabout project that we did a few years ago and going up through the mid-junction just north of the, where the split median ends. We want to get out, we want to talk to the locals, more the governments at this point, to really open the lines of communication, make sure that you guys know that the project's coming, but also when we look at things, this project's slated for 2023, but yet when we're looking at our timeline and what we need for a design schedule, we're looking to lock in our scope of the project fully in the next couple months, and then finish out our preliminary design later this fall. So we're here tonight to really present, get some input from the town board at this point to be able to help us lock in that scope and kind of keep going further as we go down the process. Really, the project is relatively simple in nature. It's a resurfacing project. So what we're looking to do is do concrete repairs along the segment, do a 2-layer asphalt overlay system, replace any beam guard that there is. Probably the biggest change that we have in the scope at this point is widening the paved shoulders from 3 feet to 5 feet along the corridor. And then
Is that for a bike lane? Is that the idea?
it's, well, it's meant for, what we looked at through Highway 4257 is from a corridor perspective. When you go north of here and south of Sturgeon Bay, those paved shoulders are wider. So for consistency standpoint, yes, it would help with bike accommodations along the corridor, but it's really more from a consistency standpoint. When we go to the south of Sturgeon Bay on that section of 4257 and do paving, we'll be doing the same thing there, widen those out to be consistent. So, right now, construction is scheduled for 2023. we don't have a lot of details worked out at this point, obviously. It's still very early in the game. Obviously, with Door County, this is a main artery essentially coming up to the northern part of the county. So we'd be looking to get as much of the work done in the spring. The concrete repairs are the most convoluted, I guess, because it takes time for that concrete to cure. So exactly how we get traffic around, that's something to be seen, whether that's a detour, a short-term detour while we do that, or whether it's some type of a temporary signal, one-way scenario during that time. So again, that's to be worked out. We're working on that. But really, when we look at this project, it's a paving project. The goal is to extend the service life of this pavement. So you have to keep in mind, this means that we're not going to be out here on this section for likely 18 to 20 years unless there's other safety issues or things that come up that warrant a little bit more immediate action. So looking at things from a concern standpoint of, developments, sometimes the town's aware of certain developments that might be coming in. We kind of like to know that so we can, if there's other things that need to be done, we can work with those entities. But if there's drainage concerns, any type of things that you as a town board want to see addressed or at least brought to our attention, it's important that tonight and over the next, let's say, 2 months, we get that feedback. So I guess that's really the main part of what I wanted to talk about. I guess I'll open up to any questions you as a board have.
You're not putting any more roundabouts in, are you?
Not with this project, no. So.
Are you adding concrete to intersections that are just paved off? In other words, are you doing curbing on corners that we don't have curbing today? Is that anticipated?
No, pretty much everything that's out there today, it would look very
refreshed.
similar. So unless there's curb there that need to be repaired, was beat up by plows, things like that, outside of that, we don't have an intention to do that.
Okay.
Unless there's
Well, I
maintenance
noticed
concerns, things like that.
When you went north in some locations, as they paved north, it seemed like they added curbing in certain intersections where it didn't exist in the past.
Good.
So I didn't know if that was part of this process or not.
With the curb on intersections, a lot of that's dictated by the amount of traffic that's using it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say that's the only time. We do rely on the county crews and their maintenance folks to make us aware. So if there's a lot of maintenance issues, sometimes that would come into play as well. But
How about turn lanes? Are there any, I know we went through this, you might not have been involved when Grandma Tommy's was built. We had some issues with traffic flow through there, so are you looking for any added turn lanes or revisions or anything, or is that not in the scope?
not in the scope. I know that's been an issue in the past, and what had gotten done was the paving of that shoulder
Right.
to help facilitate the traffic movement around there. And to my knowledge, that's what's been working. We haven't gotten any other feedback saying that it hasn't been. But typically, we're not going to use taxpayer dollars to fund things specific for a private business or something like that. It's more intersections for town roads, things like that, if the numbers warrant it. So, yes, Linda.
The intersection of Gordon Road and the highway, that is a scary intersection in the summer for anyone turning north off of Gordon. I don't think there is a solution other than creating a frontage road and making people use it, but.
Gordon Road, I mean, this has been an issue. It was an issue when we did the roundabout project as well. We know that it's a concern. We have been monitoring it for the crash rates, but the reality is, from a crash rate perspective, it's still significantly lower than what we're seeing on a statewide average. So until you actually get that numbers up, there's a lot more needs throughout the state, unfortunately, that are higher on the list. So,
Gonna have more first responder calls then.
so
That's a
Is
horrible,
that,
horrible intersection.
Do you have an influence with the county, or is it the county's call to make that a right-hand turn-only intersection?
As in like a right in, right out?
Well, coming out of Culvers, you make a right, you go up to the roundabout, make your
Loop around.
circle, and you head back. You know, basically, it would be like down by Anna's place. I can't think of the road intersection.
Oh, Utah? Utah.
Similar to Utah?
Okay.
Where you're coming
Or
out,
T.
going one way or the other, not able to cross them, or even by Pickens.
Yeah,
So
right.
I think, well, it's kind of a devil's advocate a little bit of what you do there. Again, if you do something like that, you cut off the access. You know, that's, and being a county highway, I don't know how they would feel about that. They have not brought anything like that to our attention. So, not saying that we would say no. It'd be something that we'd investigate, though.
I'm just wondering from, you know, whose perspective, if in fact, we've heard some conversations on it, but not knowing from whom, so.
So, it might be, I mean, it'd be something that we'd have to talk about, cost sharing, things like that. Again, the numbers don't drive it, and that's where, you know, when we're looking at taxpayer dollars, unfortunately, that's the data that really drives those decisions, so.
What about the former chalet, I don't know what they're calling it now, for a turn lane there, because that's gonna be apartments, so it's gonna be a lot higher traffic flow there. Is there anything talked about, do you know what I'm talking about there?
Well, that's the first time I'm hearing that, so
Yeah,
that's,
those are turned into apartments now,
okay,
so you're gonna have people going in and out of there every day rather than,
And
you know,
storage buildings.
and storage. So it's gonna
Okay.
be a lot higher traffic right through there. That might be something to look into
The
for a
owner
turnout on both
anticipates,
sides.
yeah, the owner anticipates adding multiple storage buildings back in there, assuming he rents the first couple.
Yeah, like I said,
I
it's
think there is a
residents gonna be
turn
living there,
lane.
not just a hotel,
Heading north,
Heading
there
north,
is a
there's a
turn
turn
lane
lane.
into it.
okay.
but heading southbound, people coming home.
We'll have to look into that. Do you know, are there site
It's-
plans already available for those things, or?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
map right there.
That's right here, correct?
The projects are underway, they're
Yeah.
Okay,
doing completion of the apartments.
Mhm. And the owner had indicated he had reached out, I believe, to the DOT. I don't know, maybe someone else from your department.
okay. I can look into that.
And he acquired all the property down to the intersection of Gordon Road.
Yep. That whole
So-
triangle in there.
Okay, so including
Yep.
that.
So he had some thoughts in terms of what he was gonna do with it. In the end, I don't know, but
Okay.
may wanna consider that.
How many units is the apartment complex? You know?
8.
Estimate,
It's 8,
8 units?
yeah.
Isn't there 2 buildings?
Yeah.
There's 2
Yes.
buildings.
Yeah, there's 4 in each one.
Oh, is that it? Okay. But he's got all those, how many storage units did
The
he?
store, yeah, I don't know how many storage
He
units are
put like, what,
exactly.
60
60,
storage units
60,
and
something like that.
behind that?
Okay.
And he anticipates doing more buildings if they're successfully rented. So he's enough land to do it.
Plus whatever they're gonna do with the house, the A-frame house,
Yeah.
what that's gonna be turned into.
And then the median, right in front of C&W, so at the intersection of East Jorns Lane and the split by, right. I always thought that was kind of tricky too. It's not really marked very well right now, so maybe when you redo the project, you'll have better markings so people know that, okay, I need to go in the median in order to get to C&W or
Signage.
something like
Okay.
that,
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else right now? All right, again, I mean, as a board, if you think of anything that comes up, please let us know. We'll be going on, we'll be doing more public involvement, probably late this summer, early fall time period. At that point, we'd have a local officials meeting, which would include the board here, and then go out to the public shortly thereafter with really the intended plan and be able to take that forward with comments, so.
Was there some plan in the works at some point, I could swear I saw something about repaving from the mill up through, was that last year that they were thinking of doing that?
You're
paving?
talking going north on
Yeah.
57
Yes.
through here? Yep, I had that as a comment here too. We do have that project, right now it's in the works for 2021 construction.
Oh, it's 21?
Yes.
Was it 19 originally and got moved to 21?
I think it was, well, we always schedule things or have them on a design schedule to be done earlier. So if funding becomes available, we can be able to advance that project further. That has not happened. Our design is complete and it's on the shelf, but the funding hasn't moved forward yet, so.
And is there anything with respect to that that would impact our town as you would pave, or is it just
That
a
was,
repave?
that was essentially a very simple mill to pave to project, so we didn't really do much for outreach because the scope of that project was so limited, so.
And one other comment, because I do drive a motorcycle. When you, I don't know if it was you at the time that was involved, but when we repaved, or you repaved that section, going past the farm, making a left-hand curve,
Yes.
there were oil spots on that surface that kept appearing after the pavement had been done for months.
Is that when they did the chip seal here, like?
No, this was
or-
before chip seal. And,
Okay.
I know there were a couple people that also talked to the county a little bit about it. And I don't think anybody knew what caused it, but there would be these football-sized patches of oil seepage coming up through the pavement, kind of looking like black blotches of black paint, and only in that curve. So if you hit that, it was like a grease spot, you know, it gave you an interesting ride. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
I appreciate that, so if it comes up in construction.
But I don't know where it came from or why, so, anyway.
Well, speaking of that repaving, so I know it was in 2009 when you, I think, like you said, 2 inches of milling and 2 inches of repaving out here. All right, so that's only 10 years ago. And then you chip sealed it, I think it was 2 years ago?
2 or
Maybe
3.
All right, I'm just wondering, for longevity, is that pretty much the normal course? I mean, and now to repave it again in 21?
We do different levels
Okay.
of maintenance. It depends on the pavement needs. That's an expertise that's above and beyond me when it comes into pavement design. But we do have projects where we do just a mill to pave to type thing. That is meant for a little bit of a shorter run, like 10 years roughly.
Okay.
Versus like what we're doing here, it's a 2-layer asphalt system. The intention is to get more life out of that. This one's a little bit more intense because we have the concrete underneath and we'll be doing the concrete repairs. So you want a little bit more of an asphalt structure over the top to bridge things that happen, cracking, things like that, so.
Okay, any other questions?
Good question.
No, I think we're
Thank you.
good.
All right.
Thank you.
We saw something about a quick trip possibly going in. Do you know anything about that? Is that happening?
Make sure your tank is filled before you come up here. Because it ain't happening yet.
Okay,
It's been talked for quite some time.
but nothing, it's not, nothing set in
So
stone.
don't.
Yeah. Are you telling us something?
I thought you had information.
It's been a rumor in a couple different locations, but nothing that anybody's, I think, been able to really lay their hand on, so. Okay,
All right.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
thank you. Good luck on the ride home.
Thank you.
All right. Getting back to our agenda, next item on the agenda is the Muscat property update. As you are aware from previous meetings, through our attorney and through the building inspector, we have issued a raise order to the owner. It's my belief that she was served on Saturday, basically telling her that the buildings are uninhabitable and need to be removed. The buildings have been posted. If you drive by, you'll see a yellow notice attached to each building. There's also been a advertisement placed in the Door County Advocate to notify the estate that the buildings and the raise order exists. So we are We are actively working that. We are also working with the county to try and do a cost share with the county so that we might be able to remove more than 1 or 2 buildings a year. And the idea is that if they agree to do this, and it's probably 50-50 that they will, but if they agree to do this, we would do an intergovernmental agreement that basically says whatever funds we receive back from the sale or foreclosure on the property, we would share those funds with the county on an equal basis. So if this gets through that process, which we should know by the end of the month, we may need to approve that agreement, but and it's a work in progress at this time. The heir to the property, Nikki Henkin, has 30 days from the date she's been served to respond to us. If she chooses to respond to us, she can restart the clock. But if not, within 30 days, we would be able to go in and remove some structure, depending on what our budget would afford us the ability to do. So, as I hear more, I'll share it with you, but that's basically it. No feedback yet from the servicing on the raise order.
Just a waiting game.
Pardon me?
Just a waiting game at this point.
It is. It's just a waiting game. You've got pictures of the orders. Brett Timmy did an absolute tremendous job documenting all of the necessary paperwork so that if this ends up going to the court, which it could if she protests this, we could go to a judge and say, here's the documentation on why this building should come down, and he did a great job with that. So it's basically in Amy's hands for the next few weeks until we hear something back one way or the other, Amy being the town attorney, Amy Sullivan. So, any questions other than that? Okay.
Pretty well covered.
Excuse me. The next item is the Van Bellinger lawsuit. This has been on again, off again situation with the gentleman and his wife who own property adjacent to the dam that we manage on Clark Lake to control the outflow of water down Whitefish Bay Creek. We thought after 4 years of work that we had settled this a couple years ago with the provision that the landowner provide us with a insurance policy in the event that someone from the public were to cross our dam, which would be accessible from his property. And for a variety of reasons, he was not able to provide us with this, but decided that since we took away access to the dam, he decided to start up the lawsuit again, for lack of a better word. Right. Any rate, so this has been a work in progress in the background with our town attorney, and we have finally been offered us a resolution to this. And essentially, the 3 parties that are involved in the lawsuit, which is Rural Insurance, which is our insurance carrier, ourselves, and the title company that issued a title policy to the Van Bellingers, have been offered a settlement option where each of the 3 would pay a sum of $3,000 each, or a total of $9,000 to the Van Bellingers, and that he would use those funds as a partial payment to build a bridge across the creek area, adjacent, I shouldn't say adjacent, but near the existing dam, which would give him access to the property that's on the other side of the waterway. So it's the recommendation from the town attorney that we take this settlement, in that the costs to continue to work it through the courts with depositions and court appearances far exceeds the $3,000 settlement. So my recommendation to the board is that we approve that. And because it's non-budgeted, we need to do that by a roll call vote to amend the budget to pay the settlement. And we have been assured by the attorneys, both attorneys, ours and the ones that represent us through rural, that this will come through with 0 conditions attached, so we don't have to revisit this again in a year, 2 or 3. So anyone have any questions relative to that? Yes.
I think as long as we cover all any and all maintenance and repairs and whatever in perpetuity, of this bridge that they construct, the owner will be responsible for, and the total and complete release of the town of any and all future claims, and no interference with our easement that we have to access our dam and do the maintenance that we need to do on our own dam.
Can we have input of where it goes? Is that something we can go down there and,
I
or
don't,
we're talking to Miles and go down there and say it's gotta stay so far back from the
I'll contact the
outside of the dam?
I'll contact the DNR. We have a working relationship with them over the dam, so I'll contact them to find out what if there are any concerns, and let him do that.
Cause they're gonna have to take out some vegetation down there too. I mean,
Right.
we've all been down there, there's trees, stuff hanging over, so they're gonna be cutting. DNR's gonna have to be involved pretty thick with this.
No, I agree, and I agree with Linda's comments. I don't think it's anything imminent that he'll be doing in the next few weeks anyhow. But I will address it with him to make sure that it's covered and we don't end up having that as a secondary issue.
That's right, we don't want him to impair our easement.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other comments? If not, we would need a motion and a roll call vote to approve the expenditure.
Okay, well, I'll move to approve the settlement as we just discussed with each of the parties, the town, Rural Mutual, and Chicago Title Insurance Company contributing $3,000 towards the settlement, and with all the conditions that we just talked about.
We have a motion on the floor from
I second
Linda,
that motion.
second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will ask Amy to call the roll. Roll call, please.
Supervisor John Stavenus.
Aye.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Aye.
Chairman Dan Wolfle.
Aye.
Supervisor Jim Nellen.
Aye.
And Supervisor Mark Hayne.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We will get this communicated back to our attorneys. Thank you. Okay, this is carryover from last month, town storage, shelving, digitizing records, etc. A couple pieces of this. First off, we were able to get from our appraiser all of our records in digital form. Or they do have a requirement, at least for the short term, that we keep the hard copy, 30 boxes, Amy?
Yes.
30-some boxes of records for a couple of years, at which time we'll be able to eventually remove them from active duty and strictly go with the digital copies. And we've reviewed those documents with the state, so we have flexibility there. Would like to hear further from you or the county with respect to storage.
Right.
If you know any more, please feel free to share.
There's a meeting going on right now at the library to discuss the archive project. They're contemplating using the former Yonkers building, which the county has purchased, to use that as an archive and maybe an expansion of the museum. And they may or may not offer actual physical storage area. So for all those 500 volumes of assessor records or rolls that we're required to keep forever, I would maybe suggest holding off on exploring digitizing that until we know for sure that, like I said, perhaps they will allow storage of municipal records down there.
Amy, did you have any luck with the other towns or villages with respect to what they're doing with their records?
Majority of them aren't seeing the cost savings in digitizing them currently. I know that Sister Bay is going forward, but they aren't being retroactive with anything. So she did send me a copy of their ordinance and their schedule of saving and getting rid of things.
So they're digitizing the current?
She is going forward, but nothing, they're not doing anything retroactive just because it's
Well,
not
it's a
cost
huge
effective
cost.
for them. So
Do we know who they're using? Can you find out?
I can see what, I don't know if it's
I mean,
all
there's no
just going
point
through
if
with
they
her
have somebody
hands.
that's doing it, maybe we can at least explore the cost and tag on to theirs with, minimal effort.
Does our tax lister provide you with a digital assessment roll? I thought we have that capability.
With the assessment roll? He did last year because,
Not the assessor, tax listing.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, and we have been
And
getting
would
it that
always-
way.
And it would always be accessible
Mhm.
at the county level, I'm sure. But we still get hard copies.
Right. So, well, the gist of it is, on the next point, or I shouldn't say point, the other thing is we had somebody come in here and take a look at the facility and is in the process of giving us some estimates to put some storage up in multiple locations, both in the TV station area, in the room where the chairs and tables are at, and in the storage room and back, which you've seen from being in there, they need attention. So we're gonna try and do that, and then maybe we'll have a really fun day where we can help move everything out and put it back in. But it'll come back next month, I'm sure, in terms of where we're at. But any news on the county, just keep us in the loop, Linda.
Yep.
Okay. Next item is on the public access channel, our PEG channel. And I think we talked a little bit about this last month, but I think it became fairly apparent that after last month's meeting on the quarry conditional use, that we need to try and expand the availability of access to what's happening here in the town to a larger network. And to do that, we've been talking on and off about different alternatives, but I think we finally settled on one that will allow us to live stream over the internet on YouTube, at least we think YouTube at this point, for literally minimal investment. Laddie did some background work, and it looks like literally for $100 out of pocket with a little gizmo, we're going to be able to attempt to broadcast the meetings live on YouTube. And it gives you a number of options. First off, anybody that has a PC and has internet connectivity will be able to view it either live or at a later date, be able to go in and watch it. And with YouTube, you have the ability to move forward and back or pause, so it gives you some added flexibility in viewing the meeting if you have interest in something. So we hope to try and put that together on an April start date, is that correct? We're going to try a couple tests.
Shoot for that, yep.
We're going to shoot for that and see. Do you have any comment on that, Laddie?
Yeah, second. We're going to try to live stream the RPC meeting this Thursday. Of course, we can't carry that to the TV station live.
Right.
But we could potentially do it. We can give it a try, and if it works, then we can do the same thing in any meeting you want, including, of course, ones here.
Okay.
It's going to be experimented, but I think it might work.
And it's a dual mode, so those people that have charter and want to watch it on the TV station, it will still be there. But this gives people who are in the area that do not have access to charter, simply because charter isn't in their area geographically, gives them an opportunity. So it's, there's other ways we can go at it, but this looks like a good way to start and see what happens. And if we have to change things, we will, but that's what our intention is. We also figured out that even though I thought we had 2 handheld mics, apparently we only had 1, as we discovered that night at the meeting. So you've noticed we now have 2. So.
I don't have the second one set up, but I just received it in the box today, but we will have it.
Okay, so at any rate, we managed to acquire a second one to make it a little less difficult to try and comment in terms of where we're at. I think that's pretty much it. Jim, did you have any comment on with respect to that?
We covered everything.
Okay, great. Town Park project, this has been something that's been happening in the background. Some of you are aware of it. It's a project to reconstruct the tennis courts at the town park, and this started a couple years ago. The current courts that we have are pretty much unusable. As it turns out that the base for the courts, when it was put in 20 or 25 years ago, the base wasn't adequate, not enough gravel, for lack of a better word, put down, and as a result, the surface is cracked and uneven and to a large degree not safe to play on. So the park board is looking to try and replace that by putting a combination of pickleball courts in and tennis courts. Pickleball being a very participative sport. People are really taking to it, and you've read through or heard many of the things that are happening in the county throughout the county regarding pickleball courts. So we're going to try and expand that, try and grow the user base of the park. With the park being what it is, we have to continue to pay to maintain the park regardless of usage levels. I mean, we might pay incrementally more if we use it a little more, but for the most part, it's being underutilized right now, and we still have to pay, all the costs are out of pocket to maintain it. So by trying to reconstruct the courts, we could draw in a lot more people and players to the park and utilize the facility better. Additionally, the school uses our park for physical education classes, so we would be introducing the sport to the students. Pickleball's turned out to be quite an active sport now at the college level, so I think it would be good to them. We might get some of the kids in to get a chance to get some exercise rather than spending the time on the phone or their tablet. So we're in the process of raising funds for that project. It's an expensive project, over $100,000, to completely pull those existing courts out, rebuild them, put in fencing, screening, and to refinish the court surface. So if anyone would like naming rights to the town tennis park pickleball courts, we'd certainly discuss that. Or if anybody would like a donation. So at any rate, we're closing in on about half of the necessary funds through donations at this point. Derek, did you have something?
Yeah, just kind of curious, and I know this used to be, I don't know if I had like 5-10 years ago, it's probably still is, but like, I know a lot of people that do frisbee golf. Is there enough room to do some type of frisbee golf thing over there as well?
We've had the school come to us in the past to ask us to do that, but there hasn't been any further conversation for...
There's not enough room over there to have a full size.
Okay.
They were gonna start actually on the property across from the saloon, right just south of St. Pierre and Paul.
Right.
And go all the way through the back and end up at the park, but it just kind of died. Nothing ever happened to it, so we were open to it, and bringing it in, and it just nothing ever came to fruition. Spearhead it. That's what we need someone to.
I think it really comes back to the school as the principal interest there, so see what's up.
And the other thing with this, the pickleball courts, we are not gonna do this if we can't get the funding.
Right.
We can't afford it, we don't have it in our budget, we're not just gonna go and do it and hope for the best. We need to get funding, we need to get some money to back this before we begin the project.
Is that the one where they just like hit a ball against the wall or something?
Nope. No, it's over net, it's a Dan, you play paddle.
It's a paddle, it's on, 2 courts fit on 1 tennis court.
Okay.
And it uses a wiffle ball and a paddle, and it's somewhat similar to tennis, but different. And it's the #1 sport, especially for seniors, which our town has a lot of. Almost half of our town is seniors, and it gives them good exercise, and there's a growing interest in doing it. But as Mark said, we have to get the funding. We're happy to report we might be close to about 50%, which is great, but we got a long way to go, so we'll keep you abreast of it. So, all right. Onward here, we have typically not have a meeting during the month of March, so what we need to do is we need to authorize payment of the March 2020 bills, vouchers, and claims. So to do that, we should do a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 2020 vouchers, bills, and claims.
Motion by John, second by?
Second.
Second by Mark. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Next item is the selection of a vice chair. As many of you are aware, 2 of our board members are stepping down this year. We have Jim Nellen on my right, who is not running again, who's been with us for the last couple of years and done a great job working for us. We will miss Jim. This is probably our last meeting that Jim will be at. Our next meeting will be the annual meeting, which will be after the election. But we appreciate your efforts and thank you very much.
April meeting.
Well, thank you.
Pardon me?
We have an April meeting the day before the annual meeting. He gets one more meeting.
Oh, you're gonna make him come to that?
Yes.
So don't say goodbye to him.
Ooh, all right, I take that all back, Jim. right, on the other side, at the April meeting, we will still have John Stavenus. John is our current vice chair, and as many of you know, John has been with us 16 years and been on the board, obviously involved in a lot in our community. But John's leaving the board because of his job, where John's never at home. And so his wife has a picture of him on the door, which she frequently sees as she comes and goes. At any rate, as a result of not being here, John has to step down this year. And with the vice chair would change, he would be the person responsible for calling a meeting. So what we're going to do is select a new vice chair to replace John in the event that there's a meeting that needs to be called in March. So with that as a backdrop, we'll let somebody nominate someone.
I'd like to nominate Linda Waite for vice chair.
I second that.
We have a nomination from Mark for Linda and seconded by Jim. Are there anyone?
Does she have to, can she deny
An
it?
acceptance speech?
Can she deny it, or?
It would be my honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, hearing no other names, those in favor of making the change with Linda, we have a motion by Mark and a second by Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Well, thank you. Thank you, John, for your service. We'll thank you again in April. And Linda, thank you for stepping up to take care of that position.
You are welcome.
All right. With that, we go on to the financial reports. And you have with you in your packet the account balances, the budget versus actual for January 2020. And you have the transactions for the month as well. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them out. If not, we are going to ask Amy. She might have a couple comments on the financials.
We have paid our February settlement, and we've received our February settlement too. So we are at 69% of our tax levy receipts for the year. And the number that you had thrown out for snow removal was a little skewed because we did get one more bill from the county for a grand total of being $70,000 over our snow removal budget for 2019. And next week, we have the auditors at our office. That's all I have.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept the financial reports for January 2020? Sure.
Interest rates have dropped, and it's speculated that they will continue to drop. Like I look back in December of, anyway, they're going from 2.27%, now we're at 1.61%. Some of the accounts are at 0.1%, so dropping. I'm just wondering if it would be worth exploring CD rates. We do have substantial funds that we're banking, the building fund and et cetera. So I don't know if it would be worth Miss Amy to check into CD rates, maybe 1 year or 6 months. Maybe there won't even be that big a difference, but.
I can definitely look into it.
Yeah. The local.
This is money that's not in the state fund.
The local government pool right now is at 1.61 compared to 2 something a year ago or whatever. So they likewise are usually on the high side, but they're dropping as well. So maybe just something we could take a look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will do that for the next meeting.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Financial records and reports. All right. Motion by Mark, second by?
I'll second that.
Second by John. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll take care of that. Next item is approval of the vouchers, bills, and claims for January 20th through February 17th. I think everybody's had a chance to sign them and see them?
Yep.
Okay, motion would be in order.
I'll move to approve the voucher bills and claims as submitted for the period January 20th through February 17th, 2020.
A motion by Linda, second by?
I second that.
Second by Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Oral committee commission reports. I do not think we have anything unless someone has something that they'd like as an individual oral. Hearing none, we will go on to the county board report from Ms. Waite.
I'll keep it brief. There's been some talk about redoing our addressing system. So right now we have the E911 green, number signs, your address or whatever on the post. If you travel to the western part of the state, I've noticed this. So our signs are parallel with the road. Some of those are perpendicular to the road. And I've noticed too, like if you're driving and they're very highly reflective. So even at night, it's very easy to see a perpendicular sign as opposed to looking towards the driveway. So the county is looking at that, and they will be contacting all the municipalities. There's about 18,000 green address signs in the county. Really rough estimate on replacing those was anywhere between around 350 to 400,000 because it requires new signs, new posts, new brackets. Maybe the county would even be interested in printing those new address signs for us. Anyway, they're going to be.
Is that cost by the county or is that by the municipality?
Well, there's talk about either the county would pick it up or we could add it as a special charge to the tax bill, depending on what we want to do.
Is this
Anyway,
up to the towns? I mean, can we say, no, we don't want it? Or is it a countywide thing and we're stuck with it?
it would be prudent if you're going to change something, the entire county has to change it. You're not going to have piecemeal with some having green signs and some having blue signs. So, like I said, it's just up for discussion right now. Some of the southern towns feel that their signs are worn out, hard to read, and I agree. You'll probably be asked when we do our road tour in May, take a look at the address signs and, or the poles are askew.
They charge $25 just to replace one today, the county does.
Yeah,
So-
actually, they raised it to 75.
Oh.
Yes. Or, I'm sorry, 75 for new signs and 25 for replacement, right? And you used to get your first sign free.
You don't
Not
anymore.
anymore. So, anyway, it's going to be up for discussion, and like I said, municipalities will receive a letter better explaining that. So I thought, well, I'll bring that to your attention. I did attend the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Recreational Facilities Plan meeting on Thursday, January 30th. I'm not sure I really gained anything from attending that meeting. We implemented this, they started it in 2004, we implemented it in 2013. And we have a map of roads that are designated for or signed for bicycle routes. Anyway, that committee or the land use committee is going to start paying more attention. You heard Mr. Ashauer say that they're widening the shoulders. And the county now, when county redoes county roads, they are also adding a little bit to the shoulders. So anyway, it's going to be more active, I think, as far as bike and pedestrian routes. County board meets on Tuesday, February 25th at 10 a.m. You probably saw there was a new director that the Door County Economic Development Corp selected Steve Jenkins as their new director. I think that's about it. This may be my last county board report if we do not have a meeting in March, and I don't know our April meeting. I may be out of office by then. Anyway, it has been my pleasure and privilege to serve as County Board Supervisor for District 14, the western side of the town of Sevastopol. So I've learned a lot over the last 2 terms, and I've enjoyed it, and now we move on.
And I tried to talk Linda into doing a write-in campaign. She said no.
So,
Thank you, Linda.
you're welcome.
The only comment I would add to the license, or the license, to the signage thing is, and we don't have to get into it now, but I think the city's gonna try and push us all to change over to this common wayfinding signage, right?
I would imagine so.
So, you know, this could be more than just street, I mean, this incorporates all of the signage for directional stuff. So we'll have to see what their timetable is before we jump in there and get going. All right, thanks again, Linda.
You're welcome.
Okay, license and permits you have in the package, the Door County inspections report, as well as the building permit zoning stuff, which is virtually non-existent for the month, a couple storage buildings and a garage, so very little new addition. In correspondence, you have a copy of the information with respect to the February 20th hearing for the Resource Planning Commission regarding the quarry, and all the detail in there with relative to how much time is allocated and when and where. You also have a copy of the request by the Depries to do riprap on their property on Bayshore Drive. You know, a copy of the November 2019 room tax. These are the permitted properties. You'll notice the list shrinks appreciably in the season as it goes over. And basically, that is it in the way of correspondence. Announcements, we have primary election tomorrow, February 18th. Polls open at 7 a.m. Amy will be here at 5 a.m., so if you're driving by, if you have coffee and donuts, she would appreciate your just knocking on the window and handing it to her. Polls are open from 7 to 8. March 28th at 10 a.m., the League of Women Voters will hold a voters forum here for board supervisors. The spring elections are scheduled for April 7th. Again, the polls are open from 7 to 8 p.m. Again, we're replacing, this time, we're replacing Jim and John, so look forward to your support. Our next Board of Supervisors meeting that is scheduled is April 20th. If there's one prior to that, it'll be at the call of the chair. And our annual town board meeting will be April 21st at 6 p.m. And we have two things, one that I forgot to put on here, which was town hall rental fees. We forgot to bring that back this month, so we'll bring that back. And CD rates, whether or not we want to look for that. Anything else that comes to mind from anyone?
The one thing, just want to say real quick, Linda and I went to a training on February 8th. I was kind of nervous, it was going to be really boring, I was going to fall asleep, but we stayed, and we won. That's a whole other story. The second half of the training was on internet security and voting, all the security, basically, internet.
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. I don't know if people in the town are interested in coming to a presentation on this, but there was, a couple of them were very interesting. Opened my eyes. Don't open emails if you don't know who they're from. But there is a guy that he gave us his card and said he would come and do a presentation for the town or a group or anything. It's very eye-opening. If you don't pay attention to cybersecurity, you're missing the boat, because everything you do nowadays it's on the internet. Everything you do, even if you don't own a computer, you're on the internet. And there was a couple times where I was blown away by the things that they were telling us. So if people are interested, even a group or committee, or wants a presentation, it's very, very interesting. The one guy he was a police officer for 11 years or something like that before, so he's on both sides, and he sees both sides. They actually have, I didn't know, they have hackers, what you call this, a white collar hacker, that she goes in and tries to hack for the state, so they know. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that's out there. So if anybody's interested in having a presentation, I'd like to do it again. It was quite interesting. It's unbelievable what these people are trying to do, what they're trying to get, what they're getting from you, what they're trying to get from you. So if anybody's interested, let us know. Lynn and I have their cards. And we were the big winners. So they had a drawing. It was
We
a raffle.
We contributed towards the scholarship.
It was going towards the scholarship, or some of our money went to it. And
With our own money.
With our own money.
Yes.
They picked two winners, and the first winner, I won a $50 MasterCard, and the guy went and picked the second one. He said, I've never seen this before. Both of them for Door County, both from the town of Sevastopol, and Linda won the other $50. So it was a clean sweep. The only two winners were us, and we're sitting front row and right there, and we got our gas paid for.
Yep, that was pretty cool.
That's good. So it was very interesting. I learned a lot. It was a good meeting.
Good. That was Wisconsin Towns Association
Wisconsin Towns Association,
District meeting, right?
And I know Amy is attending one of the sessions too. There were some changes to board of review procedure as far as publication and the notice format and all that. So, yes, I agree, Mark, it was a very worthwhile session.
Yeah, and they gave us, for the board review, they actually gave us papers that we can use to, like, read kind of format. It's
Right.
very,
A
because
script.
the script,
Good.
it's, you know, and they changed some things, so it was very worthwhile time.
Yep,
You know how
absolutely.
this works, right?
How does this work?
The people who are most recently trained get the opportunity to chair the board of review.
There you
It's
go.
not the chairman.
Joe Linda.
There you
So, all right, thank you much. All right, we come to the favorite part of the meeting for one of our town board members. That would be a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by John, second by
Second.
Mark to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
go.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.